welcome back to the last video on swag fringe. If you think of something else involving swags that you want to learn, I probably know it and could teach it to you. But what I'd like to do today is go through how to add larger beads and smaller beads and make strands that are cohesive. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick my needle in back to front the way we always do it. I've got my pen and my paper ready to count out what I'm going to do. So when you're dealing with beads and colors, I'm using these kind of large ones and the pearls today. You have two choices. You can separate them with a spacer bead. I'm using my red glass spacer beads. Or you can have them flush together. If you have them flush together, you're just going to do, these are actually really hard to get out. You would just do a bead, a bead, a bead, and keep going like that until you get this kind of flush together pearl look, which is really nice, but it's not quite as flexible. If you need to make tiny things, the pearls will separate and you'll see the thread. So one way to give it more flexibility and a more delicate look is to add the spacer beads. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can choose to do multiple spacer beads, 1, 2, it doesn't matter, but you should always remain consistent. So for right now, let's do 3 and see how that looks. So I would do 3 of my glass beads, and then I would do 1 pearl. And then 3 glass beads, 1 pearl, and so on. And then let's come back and see how it looks. Okay, so here we are back with the 3 spacers, 1 pearl, 3 spacers, 1 pearl. You can continue that all the way through to your swag if you want, and you'll get a very particular look. And all your swags can be like that. You can have your inner swag like that, and then the last one like that, and this is a very valid way to do it. And also, this is a way to make great swags if you are limited in the number of large beads you have. It's a way to sort of make them stretch and make them work. Sometimes the pearls can be really expensive. The most expensive ones come from Japan. And you might feel like you just don't have enough, because when you're clustering them together, one right next to each other, you will be surprised how many you will use. And pearls in general hold their finish, but not always. And whenever they're getting banged together with fringe and movement, it doesn't really matter where they come from. Eventually the finish will go, and so you got to think about that when you're buying your pearls. Glass pearls over plastic pearls are usually better, but it can get expensive, so this is a way to make it stretch. All right, so let's go back, and I'm going to take these out, and I'm going to do 2 seed beads, 1 pearl. Okay, here's the 2 seed beads, 1 pearl look. I think it's nice. I've done this many times, especially when I want to diffuse color. Maybe I'm doing a costume that is blue and red, or maybe I'm doing something that's pink and white. I can use both the colors here, and it will be very obvious that I have, you know, a bi-color design. So now I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to do 1 bead and pearl, and I'm going to show you why that's my favorite. Okay, here's the variation with 1 bead and 1 pearl. And the reason why I like this one the best is because it gives it sort of a rope or coil-like effect. You don't lose any of the flexibility, and it keeps it nice and tight, and it makes it look just very luxurious. And if you're familiar with beaded jewelry that is hand knotted, this is the same kind of look. Between every bead they would hand knot or put a spacer bead to give it this look specifically. So if you buy like an old strand of pearls, you'll see these, or even a fine strand of pearls, you'll see these knots in between, and it separates the bead just enough that they don't rub against each other, and it gives it just this lovely sort of organic look. So this is my default go-to favorite, but you should obviously try all of them. But one thing that I like about this is it keeps that thick look even if you make your swag very small. So I can really take it in and get like a nice hang even at a small size. So now I'm going to take all of this out and start again, and we're going to look at mixing some colors without the spacer beads and then with the spacer beads. Decided with my swag that I'm going to do a pearl ombre effect. I've pulled out the pearls that I like, and I've laid them out in the direction of the ombre as I think it should go. So I would want the white pearls on either side of my swag. Okay. And then I'm going to want these aqua pearls after the white. I'm going to want these kind of turquoisey ones after that, and then the dark green in between. Now, this is enough maybe to do a swag or two swags. If I was doing a whole costume, I would have a whole collection, but we're just going to do this one. So, like a good seamstress, I'm now going to take my pen and my paper, and I'm going to write down how many beads I have, so that I only have to do my math one time. All right, I counted everything out, and this is what I gave myself. I gave myself 6 white, 4 light blue, 3 turquoise, and 3 green, with the idea that with an ombre, the light coming down to the dark is how it should go. Dark to light makes the eye look at it in a short, compact way. We want it to have length, so light to dark. So the light part should be longer, blending with the next light bit, then with the slightly darker, and then the pinnacle, the point of the ombre, the darkest part should be short and sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to string these without spacer beads so that we can see what the ombre looks like. So here's my ombre to the darkest point. Notice that once I get here, I'm going to just go backwards on the colors to make the full rainbow. All right, ta-da, look at that. I've created an ombre from white through the blues to the dark greens and then back up in sort of an ocean fashion. And I haven't used spacer beads on this. So if I wanted to make a second strand, I would do the same thing as in the other videos. I would count and I would adjust so that my darkest point is here, right here, and then it goes back up. So each strand is shorter, but the darkest ombre point remains in the center. And you can do that using just the simple subtraction that I taught you. So now I'm going to take these out and I'm going to make another ombre strand, but I'm going to put a spacer bead in between. And normally I wouldn't do red. I chose red just so that you could see it. Normally I would do white or clear or some sort of crystal or blue to go with the ombre that I'm doing. So I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it half length just so that you can see how it looks, because it does take a long time to string things. Okay, so what I did is I did the ombre with 1 bead in between, and clearly you can do 2 beads in between, 3 beads in between, all of that is possible. And I shortened it and made the darkest one just 1. So you can see the look that you can get with that. I kind of personally like to eliminate the spacer beads when I'm doing ombres, but it definitely looks like you're making something with larger beads even though you put the spacer bead in. So I'm just giving you ideas on how to make your beads go farther and how to get that swag look. So this is the end of the swag tutorials, but next up we're going to do seed beads, icicle fringe, and straight fringe too. That'll be something to learn. And if you have any questions, of course, I will completely answer them. And you should send me a message and comment and let me know what you would like to change or learn. All right, thanks so much. Bye.
Shut your craft hole.
Okay, Patreon people. I apologize for how long it's taken me to get my fringe videos together, but we just went back to in-person school, and that was chaotic and crazy. So there will be twice as many videos this month, and we'll keep going on with the fringe until you guys tell me that that's not fun anymore. But the next thing we're going to do is another version of swag fringe, and I sort of drew it out here. We're going to talk about using smaller beads, transitioning to larger beads, and having them come from the same point, which will give you a different kind of swag hang, and in some cases is a little bit easier to manage. You get more fringe space filled than the other way, and more swing. So if you haven't done my last video, which was the pearl swags, go back and do that, and then come back here and we'll get started on this. So today I've got, this will be my edge of my work. I'm using a bright blue elastic, but imagine that this is the edge of a belt or whatever garment you're working on that you want to add your fringe to. So we're working on doing swags here. I'm going to use a really bright red thread so you'll see. We're going to use pearls, and in my trusty yogurt container, always reuse and recycle, we're going to use glass red beads. Pretty easy to see. All right, let's get started. Okay, I've got my needle with my knot, okay, and I've got this nice base so that you'll be able to see it, and then I'm going to decide how long I want my swag. So I'm just going to put a pin right here in general, and then I'll put one, we'll say, like 15 centimeters over here. And that'll make it kind of easy. Okay, so that's how long it's going to be. So I'm going to start the same way that I did last time that I taught you guys, always back to front. And this time I'm not going to go through my base fabric, just my trim, because then I can't lift it off the table for you. And that's a disaster. So we're going to do this, right? So we're doing everything from a center point. So we're always coming back to these points on either side. We're not staggering them the way that we did the last one. So I'm going to go ahead and count some glass beads. I've chosen 10 beads here. And then I'm going to start with pearls. Okay, so I have done 27 pearls, 10 red beads on each side, and 27 pearls in between, because I feel like that's kind of a nice loop right there. So I'm going to go front to back here, because you always want to have your knots in the back, and that's how that one is going to look. Okay, so go ahead and tie a knot on the back when you finish. Now, coming from the same place, you're going back to front, but you're coming out at the same place. You're not coming out slightly out to make different strands. You're starting right here. So now go ahead and put 10 more of the beads that you're using on. So just like in the last video, we're going to take notes. I'm going to make sure that I write down that I did 10 here and that I did 27 here so that I know to adjust my math. So even though I've done 10 here, my number of pearls is going to be less than the initial strand. So I'm going to just start with like 25 or 24 and just see how it looks, and then adjust from there, taking notes the whole time. All right, so I've done 24, and guess what? It is just too much. So I'm going to go ahead and take off like 3 or 4 and see how that goes. So let me count out 4 and remove, and then we'll see how that looks. So if I place them there and then I do 10 beads more, that's kind of really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on to strand 3. So because I did 27 minus 4, the second strand is 23. Write that down. Now I know that I did 23 pearls because I wrote it down. So because I decreased by 4, I'm going to decrease by 4 again. So 19 pearls this time, and then let's see how it looks. Okay, so 19 pearls later, and I don't like it. I feel like there's too many. And this sometimes happens when you're coming from the same point. the general math of it means that you have to adjust the curve. It's not an even distribution like when you're doing equal swags with equal distance. So I'm going to remove a few more. I'm pulling it up, you see, to see where I want it to lay as it matches, and it looks like I need to get rid of 2 pearls. So let's get rid of those and see how that looks. So I like that a lot. That lays correctly. So now I'm going to add my 10 beads. I'm going to go through the back and I'm going to knot it, and then let's see how it looks. All right, there we go. Let's see. Very nice. It's very nice and even. The reason why I like this particular type of swag, I kind of like to think of it as like a necklace swag, because imagine a multi-strand necklace layer that you're wearing around your neck. All of the pieces come together in the clasp in the back, and so it leaves a lot of room here. So what you're aiming for is this space here. So sometimes it's really fun to put swag fringe on something and then to add something in this space. For example, maybe I want to put some hanging pearls here. You know, let's just say, for fun, maybe this is an addition that I want to do in the center of my swag. If I was doing the swags that we did in the last video where they were evenly spaced, I wouldn't have this pocket here in order to hang something. And if I tried, they'd get tangled up with the swag. So this is a way to have both dangling and swag, which is a really fun look, and it's very Victorian. I'm going to hang it up now so that you can see how it looks. All right, it looks really great. I really like this effect a lot. It was a success. All right, I'm going to get ready to teach you another type of fringe in the next video.